Hello again, everyone. Edwin Learnard back once again. In this YouTube astrological segment, I'm going to be talking about something of really strong historic significance. I was really flabbergasted in a really strong state of shock when I saw this. Apparently, there has been some historic peace treaty, peace deal that has taken place between Israel and no, I don't know if I'm saying it right, the United Arab Emirates. Um, I guess that's abbreviation UAE, and this is something I was very surprised at. But when I'm looking at, I'm going to talk about uh, some natal placements in as far as Israel's chart goes and transits that they're having at this time. That really, I mean, from an astrological vantage point or standpoint, it's not really that shocking. But what it is, I mean, things like when you have events that are that significant, like what has taken place at this point in time, and then you look at the transits in the chart, it just really helps validate and confer astrology. And I'm still very surprised that there's so many people that are skeptical of astrology and so many cynics out there. I mean, this is something that looked like may never have taken place, may have been irreconcilable differences. There's actually, I mean, of course, there's some people that might think this might be foreshadowing something negative. The people that may, the one people out there may believe in the, as far as things from a biblical standpoint and tribulation and what this event may be foreshadowing. But anyway, what I'm going to talk about though, as far as looking at, I wanted to go. I may be talking about some natal placements later on in this video, but I want to actually start with some transits because the transits are just, I mean, there's a couple that are really standing out in this. Right now, you have, as far as the Israel chart goes, I'm using the one from Astro.com, which puts them at Sun in Taurus and a Leo moon and Libra ascendant. Libra, of course, is the sign of negotiations. And one transit that is standing out right now, I mean, to me, is the fact that transit Uranus appears to be conjunct the natal North Node in Taurus of Israel, in the seventh house of negotiations. Uranus, of course, could be about very shocking, unpredictable events. You're talking about hitting the North Node associated with destiny, the future, and ones that could be very, and also something, when you're talking about transit Uranus and Taurus, could manifest by itself something unusual, unexpected, unpredictable, associated with peace and stability. And it's hitting the north node of the natal north node of Israel. Of course, the north node could be connected with the future and what we're trying to do as far as going forward in destiny. And it's hitting that in the seventh house of negotiations at this time. And another thing too, you could call it a Venus return, is what Israel is going through right now. And transit Venus is in very close proximity to the natal Venus in Cancer of Israel in the ninth house of foreigners, um, of other countries. And you're talking about the fact that, I mean, Venus in Cancer, the fact that transit Venus right now being in Cancer, Venus can be about things that are peaceful, and it doesn't, I wouldn't say it would exclude negotiations and communications, things that are showing Venus in Cancer, showing a lot of perhaps dedication and devotion and tenacity towards something peaceful. And it's hitting the natal Venus in Cancer of Israel in the ninth house of other countries. And this is something that was very, I mean, you're talking about something that could be very shocking, to say the absolute least. Transit Jupiter is in the third house of Israel right now. So transit Jupiter in the third house can manifest in uh, something that's very fortuitous for communications, very, very lucky, very fortunate in being Jupiter in Capricorn, the sign of the government, very fortuitous for government communications that are involving prominent government political figures. So it's not really that much of a shock when you look at the transits that are transpiring right now to Israel's natal chart. Now, and another thing too, transit Sun is at least fairly close to the natal Saturn of Israel in Leo. So this is something that is shining a light on government related matters for them. Something that's coming out and getting obviously a lot of Leo like exposure, recognition, and notoriety, to say the absolute least. And the thing about when you look at this as well, I mean, their chart, okay, they have Israel has Aries on the 7th house cusp, and the ruler falls in the 11th house in their chart, and it shows there's a lot of they could actually, this is a country that may really be striving for peace, perhaps with their friends, with their acquaintances, with other organizations. And the thing about this as well, looking at this chart, I mean, you have they have Mercury, Israel's chart according to Astro.com as Mercury in voluble Gemini, so they obviously are very capable of communicating about manifold things, in being in the 8th house, and when they're in some kind of crisis. This is and also having the Sun in Taurus and Libra ascendant, they have very strong energy that is connected with peace. Libra ascendant, Libra is the sign that is connected with negotiation and reconciliation. I'm surprised that it took them this long to actually do something as far as this goes, but for right now they are at least at peace with the UAE. I'll abbreviate it. And the thing, really not much more really I had to say in regards to this. Well, another thing that makes that significant, going back to the Venus return, it's also the chart ruler of Israel, so it adds more significance to it. So, and I'm trying to looking at it, I'm trying to see also if Venus is actually a singleton or not. It looks to me like it is the only planet in water. They don't have any planets in Pisces or in Scorpio. I believe it is a singleton as well, and that actually makes it more pronounced and more prominent, puts more emphasis and significance on this. So, and it's really and Venus, I would think, could be about negotiation as well. It's the ruler of, see, what makes this interesting, why this negotiation is so strong with Israel. Also, it's the fact that you're looking at, I'm sorry, it's not the ruler of their 7th house, but again, it's the ruler of their 1st house. And but the thing about this too, looking at this as well, there's really not a lot more really I had to say about this in terms of how the transits and natal placements might have impacted this situation. I'm saying transit Mars is in the 7th house of Israel, which could give some energy into negotiations. They may have been a little bit more acrimonious maybe when it started. The fact that transit Mars is in Aries, and thing too. This is something too. I noticed too that Donald Trump figured prominently in doing this as well, and it's interesting because Donald Trump has often been vilified for really for being maybe somebody that might be a warmonger or somebody that might be about instigating battles. But the thing about it is he's actually contradicted what a lot of people have thought, based on the fact that he's really been there to be somewhat of a mediator, and somebody that could be about that could figure prominently in peaceful negotiations. What I was going to say though is I noticed that the the natal Mars in Leo for Israel's natal Mars in Leo is conjunct Donald Trump's ascendant. So it's something about this country that has given him obviously some Leo energy, and as some real I mean it has really given him maybe a little bit of an energy boost. The people maybe of Israel, perhaps, and you're talking about the Mars being in near inexorable and indefatigable Leo, and it's also conjunct Donald Trump's natal Mars as well. You would think there might have been a little bit more friction between the two, and when you have Mars conjunct Mars in synastry, sometimes that's how that manifests. But the thing about this is it's very this is just something that's very surprising that actually has taken place, and it's obviously a historical moment. We'll just see how long this actually lasts though. Well, I'm just trying to see if there's anything else in here that, as far as any natal placements or transits that are in here that that are that might have been tied in to this very surprising peaceful negotiation and at least resolution, and I guess you'd call it like a peace treaty for right now. But really, and well, also Uranus is in the ninth house in the natal chart of Israel, so that could be about very unpredictable things that might transpire with other countries. Well, what I'm actually another thing I just happened to spot is that the transit south node is at least in loose conjunction to the natal Jupiter of Israel. So when you're talking about the transit when the south node in transit can manifest in what we're trying, something or someone is trying to get away from. So it might be about a certain philosophical viewpoint. And maybe one that was a little bit where they maybe, not want to say self-righteous, but where they believe that their philosophy, whatever their belief was, it was going to be their philosophy, or nothing else. That might have been, when you're talking about a belief system that might be self-righteous, thinking that, well, my belief system is the best and nobody else's viewpoint really matters, and maybe that's an indicator that they were going away from that. And it's also in the third house of the rational mind and rational thinking in Israel's chart. So, and also transit north node appears to be conjunct, at least very close, to the natal Uranus of Israel, and it appears to be in the ninth house of Israel. So when you're talking about transit north node, and you're talking about it hitting someone, or in this case a country's Uranus, that could be about some kind of future or destiny that was tied in with something very unpredictable. Not only did Israel, as I stated earlier in the video, not only is Israel having transit Uranus hitting their natal north node, but the transit north node is very close proximity to their natal Uranus, which appears to be pardon my screen's a little bit obscure and blurry, but it does appear that they do have Uranus in Gemini. So those are that signifies something, addressing something or confronting something that has to do with unpredictable, unexpected communications that with foreign countries, because Uranus and Gemini can manifest in unpredictable communications. It's in the ninth house of other countries for Israel, and it's also the transit north node is hitting it. So that it's really something that was really destined to happen, it appears. So anyways, really not much more really had to had to say about than this. The transit Mars. I mean, going back to transit Mars and Aries in that seventh house right now is at least a loose opposition to the ascent, to the Libra ascendant of Israel. But what it tells me is that maybe early on in negotiations they may have been somewhat acerbic and might not have been really conducive maybe to what Israel really wanted initially, and those negotiations might have been somewhat acrimonious, which of course, being in opposition to the Libra ascendant, it would not be something that was copacetic to them, but perhaps it progressively became more peaceful. And they do have a resolution right now as far as some kind of peace goes with UAE. Anyway, people, that'll conclude this YouTube astrological segment. Until next time, people, Edwin Learnard saying stay well.